Well, hey there. Boy oh boy, is this going to be a long one, because as you can tell from the title, this is Death Stranding. With Hideo Kojima, BBs and BTs, god is this going to be a long video, but hopefully an enjoyable one. Kicking this off, I've been a huge Kojima fan ever since I was a kid. I watched my dad play Metal Gear Solid 1, he then got Metal Gear Solid 2 and I watched him play through that entire game. And then I also played it a little myself. But then once Metal Gear Solid 3 came out, I remember not wanting to watch him play since I really wanted to play it as soon as he was done. Then playing through the game myself and having a close friend in middle school who replayed it more than 20 times, he would mention doing a knife-only run or other wacky challenges that he made up for himself. It made for a good time and a great friendship. But finally, the game that sorta changed my life, Metal Gear Solid 4. This was the first game that I became obsessed with the multiplayer on, playing it non-stop every day for years on end. Also replaying the story mode just to unlock all the secrets and emblems and weapons, one of my absolute favorite games of all time. I've also replayed these games periodically after release as well, all this to say I might be a bit of a Kojima fan. Although, as you've noticed, I don't mention Metal Gear Solid 5 here because that game just wasn't for me. I played it, I didn't really enjoy it anywhere near as much as the previous games, but with being a pretty big Kojima fan, I was excited when seeing Death Stranding trailers and previews before the game launched in 2019 as he split away from Konami, making it a new franchise and all. As much as I really wanted to play it though, similar to current day, I have a massive backlog of games to play. I was making my way through the entire Yakuza series at the time, in which I told myself I would go back to Death Stranding after completing it, and well, as you can see, I never did. I did pop the game in though and play 4 or 5 hours, and I did this on a repeat 3 or 4 times over the last couple of years, never sticking with it. And to be honest, the reason why was because the story was confusing in a way that didn't really grab me from the start, and I also thought it was only going to be the initial open zone that I would just be running back and forth in. I didn't watch too much of the game ahead of time, and I didn't really retain a lot of the differences between the zones to be able to learn that the game might grow and be more expansive, which is totally a failure on my part, but after deciding, you know what, the sequel is shaping up to look like a damn good game, I really need to get back and play the first one. So as soon as I finished playing through the newest Doom game, I popped in Death Stranding, spending about 2 weeks straight to get through it. To tell you my overall thoughts right in front here though, I think it is the most Kojima game of Kojima games ever made. With all of the acronyms, magical and mechanical stuff, yet grounded nonsense in the world, it grabs your attention as long as you can sort of suspend some disbelief along the way. Weird and wacky, yet satisfying and absolutely engaging, I enjoyed Death Stranding the more time that I spent with it. Although nowhere close to the Metal Gear Solid games of the past, this one still holds up to the insanity inside of Hideo's head that we've seen in all the previous games. But without the constraints of Konami to hold them back. He goes full throttle into the nonsense, so let's get started with this review of Death Stranding. This game is the start of a new franchise, completely new characters and world being introduced. The primary ideals of the game are about connecting people and things in a very convoluted world. Things are told to you in a not-so-clear pattern. They speak about timefall, BTs, BBs, and so much more without much context. But you slowly learn and piece together these things as the story progresses. Some things are given quite a bit of context that allow you to have a better understanding when these characters do have conversations. Other times you're still lost in the sauce a bit because they haven't really elaborated on them whatsoever. And one of these ideas is beaches. I still truly don't know what they are, but they talk about them a whole hell of a lot, and they are vital to the story. But could I explain to you what they are or give you almost any details? Nope. Could they be another plane of existence? Sure. Your subconscious mind? Yeah, maybe. Another world where you have full control and take shape of the things around you? Why the fuck not? I beat the game, looked up some stuff on the wiki, and I still don't know a lot of what's going on, meaning this conversation about the story is going to be a little all over the place, but I'll do my best to explain the primary plot points, and this will contain spoilers since this game has been out for more than 5 years and the sequel is about to release, meaning that this review is hopefully going to help a few people recap and remember the basics of the first game before hopping into the next one. First off, almost everyone in this story has a specific specific name for a reason. Sam Porter Bridges, the main character of the game, is a porter by transporting things in the open areas outside of the cities where the ghostly BT creatures are. But he was a part of a company and organization called Bridges, hence his middle and last name being Porter Bridges. This company, who is trying to rebuild America by connecting them through a magical sort of radio wave called the chiral network, or at least that's my interpretation of it. As we start the game and we meet the character Fragile, who can detect and see BTs more than we can. She can also teleport and she can sometimes use it, but sometimes not. This doesn't really get explained too much in the story, but it's also someone who delivers packages, but just in a different way than porters. As Sam, though, your primary task throughout the game is to connect these distraught cities, who used to be connected in the past, but for one reason or another became disparate communities working on their own or relying on porters to bring them necessities. Sometimes these communities are small groups of people, or just a single dude out in the middle of nowhere. You're tasked with connecting them to recreate a government called the UCA, the United Cities of America. But this isn't your only goal. You're told that the president, Bridget, is dying. Her daughter is captured by terrorists on the West Coast, and we are currently on the far East Coast. And basically, we need to work our way to her for an attempted rescue, connecting everyone that we can along our path as we journey through what's left of America. Saving the daughter of the president, who can then take over the presidency, taking up the mantle from her mother. Sam has some sort of connection to these people where it's stated that the president, Bridget, is his mother, or at least raised him. But previous things have happened to him that has caused a rift in their relationship. He sees her one last time before she passes, where she asks him to complete this very large task of reconnecting everyone and saving her daughter. Along the way, we meet some very interesting characters, I guess. A list of the most important ones here are Deadman, Die Hardman, Fragile, Higgs, Hartman, Mama, Lockney, BB, and Cliff. There's also others that have names, but they aren't integral to the story as much. But again, remember, these names all have meanings. Some are more basic, and some are more complicated. Mama has a baby who is a BT. But Heartman shuts off his heart every 21 minutes to connect to the beaches and search for his dead family. You know, tomato, tomato. Again, sometimes their names are complicated, sometimes they're not. The two main enemies of the game, though, are Cliff and Higgs. Higgs pops up randomly early in the game as a man with a gold mask, controlling and practically throwing BTs at you while spouting some random nonsense. BTs are basically some inky black ghost creatures that will mess up your day. I'll go into a bit more detail later for them, but just know that they are the primary enemies here other than some random bandits. Higgs gets in your way any opportunity he can to impede your goal of connecting the nation again and saving Amelie. Cliff, on the other hand, is the other primary villain, but he directly combats you with his army of skeleton soldiers. He also sort of randomly pulls you into his beach, which is a separate dimension as we talked about before. Each time he pulls you into that beach of his, it's in a different war zone era. Sometimes Vietnam, sometimes a world war. But you're required to kill some of his goons and then take him out. You fight him a handful of times, and this is usually the most engagement with the combat that you're going to experience throughout the game, forcing you to use your guns more than any other point to dispatch him each time. Once completed, though, you're thrust back into the normal world and out of his beach. Cliff is a recurring character, though, throughout the entire story, because each time you connect to your BB, you get a glimpse of a flashback where a memory of him is shown, usually only for a few seconds, but as this happens a few dozen times throughout the course of the game, you start to build up his story and his importance to Sam. Again, this story is very convoluted. An entire breakdown video that is maybe a few hours long could be made about this and still confuse the majority of people watching. So now that we've broken down the basics of the bad guys, I'll go ahead and tell you pretty much the major plot points and how the story ends. Amelie is the president's daughter, right? Being held on the West Coast that we're slowly working toward to be able to rescue. Well, you're sort of wrong. Amelie is the president, Bridget. They are both sort of the same person. One is the magical sort of being that controls beaches. The other is a physical entity in our world. We learn this at the very end of the game as we basically cut Amelie off from the rest of the world, stopping her ability to influence other beaches and also stopping another extinction from occurring. These extinctions basically wipe out everybody. The current extinction that we were stopping is called the Last Stranding because it was supposed to be the mother of all endings. While Bridget is the physical real-life person who has now died, Amelie is the spiritual, magical half of Bridget, who lives within the beaches. Previous world-ending events have occurred that were other extinction events, which has caused almost all of humanity to be wiped out other than these small remaining colonies across the US. Higgs, who we think is a terrorist, he sort of still is really only following the orders of Amelie, who has convinced him that ending the world is the only way to have a fresh start and allow humanity to rebuild from scratch. Giving him powers to help her accomplish her task, this allows him to sort of push and pull Sam and others in a way that benefits their mission. Cliff, on the other hand, is actually Sam's father. Every time he would connect to his BB, which stands for Bridge Baby, he was pretty much seeing his own memories that he had repressed. It allowed him to connect to the world of the undead, and BBs normally allow them to detect and escape the BTs that are attempting to attack and harm them. BTs are souls that are stuck in the underworld, or maybe they're stuck in beaches maybe, I don't really know. They're inky black, ghostly creatures that float around waiting for you to be just a little too noisy, causing them to chase you, or in my case, I just ran right into them head on, because, you know, I'm stubborn as shit. But again, I don't know a ton about them, man. It's confusing, and that's all I gotta say. Anyway, we successfully stop Higgs. We also stop Cliff from pulling us into his realm, where we think he's trying to take away our BB, since he keeps calling out to it every time that we fight him. But come to find out, Cliff is already dead, but was unable to pass on fully since he was full of rage when he died and wanted revenge. When he did die though, his child was a BB, one of the first ones ever made. And that baby was Sam, who he doesn't know has grown into a man and survived outside of his pod. Now that we know Sam's past, it helps us learn why he can constantly reincarnate due to his status as a repatriate. Again, stupid, convoluted names, but when he was removed from his pod as a baby, Amelie/Bridget revived him on the beach and gave him the power to resurrect after death. Currently, he is the only one that we know of who can do this. All of this is, again, very convoluted in Kojima-isms just for the sake of it. Sometimes I love it, sometimes I hate it, but at this point, my head hurts. It's cool to kind of figure out a story in a unique manner where not everything is told to you up front with exposition dumps. But he ends up spilling some of the beans, but not all of them, over-explaining some things and yet not others, leaving you guessing what they all mean along the way until you reach the very end. So moving on from that, we defeat Higgs, we defeat Cliff, we save Amelie, and then we stop her since she's actually the true bad guy, and we go home. Fragile, Deadman, Heartman, Mama, Lockney, Die Hardman. All these have parts to play in the story, but overall they feed into the subplots to extend the world and build out the characters. They are all very important, but not for this review of the game that I am currently doing. But what I've covered so far is about the best way that I can describe the events of the story. You travel the United States, reuniting its people, fighting ghostly creatures and bandits along the way. And that's it. Moving on though from the insane storyline and onto gameplay. Most of this game has you walking or climbing, essentially a postal worker, and one of the few left. But no, we do carry some of the most insane weights across places for the people in need, bringing them anything from pizza to medicine to live or dead bodies. It's kind of crazy the different things that you can take with you and carry on your back. How you go about traveling gets more complicated as you progress through the game, just from walking with your boots strapped up and ready to go to using a cargo carrier, maybe a motorcycle, a truck, a zipline, a catapult, and so on. This list keeps growing over the course of the game, which weirdly enough, all of these are implemented very well. Driving is a little stiff sometimes and not as responsive as I wished it was, but it's sorta made sense since these vehicles don't have roads unless you go and build them. But on the rough terrain, they're gonna drive rough. Running into rocks stops you in your path, but sometimes, especially these fucking trucks, man, they suck. Like genuinely, they are impossible to drive. Trying to drive on anything other than a straight road will have you absolutely fucking mad. I tried to go up a hill in a truck and I got forced down the hill each time, causing me to get out of said truck and go the rest of the way on foot. But other than vehicles, you're managing a few different gauges such as stamina, BB happiness, and boost durability. Also, your weight capacity determines how quickly and swiftly you can maneuver. I actually enjoyed this idea of carrying a shit ton of weight, going slow but steady. This takes me back to one of my favorite themes of all time, from my favorite anime of all time, Cowboy Bebop. You're gonna carry that weight, and it's represented so physically here, but also the toll of the mental. Your past and your decisions weighing on you as you grow older and reflect on them. The choices that you make and continue to make carried quite literally on your back as you move forward. Choosing how much to carry and the method in which to carry it is much of what this game has to offer in gameplay. Moving through this world is not easy, taking the task of bringing or taking items to and from other people. And that's what truly matters, building these connections via these people holed up in bunkers or the other players through their structures and items left in the world. You're building a connection. It's so weird how well this all melds together: gameplay, world concepts, story, and ideals. This is honestly the best part of the game, existing within the world and engaging with mechanics in a meaningful way, or as little as you want. You can go throughout the entire game carrying every single item on your back, or you can engage with other systems and use those to make the game a little easier or faster. I chose to mostly use my own Chevrolegs, which is a country southern saying for use your own damn legs. And sometimes I'd choose to ride a motorcycle. Periodically, I would use other methods of travel, but not on a regular enough basis that they made an impact on my game. Moving on from travel methods in the game though, combat is mostly basic. You got a few different guns to use that will upgrade over the course of the game. You can use them for lethal or non-lethal rounds. You can have blood rounds to fight BTs and the non-lethal rounds for fighting humans. Because of course, if you use those lethal rounds and you kill a human, you will cause a void out, which are basically a miniature nuke that will go off at the location of the death. Assault rifles, shotguns, grenade launchers, RPGs, and grenades are most of what you're gonna find here. You can also stealthily take out your foes and very quickly slam humans on the ground or cut the umbilical cords of BTs. Otherwise, you can also punch or kick regular dudes as well, although this is probably the worst way to engage an enemy. If you're resorting to this, then you're probably gonna die. The guns all feel punchy and feel relatively okay to shoot. The only weapon that I had an issue with was the assault rifle. Sometimes it just didn't really shoot the way that I wanted it to. It was able to get the job done, but it just never truly felt right. It kind of sprayed all over the place without much direction. Another thing to note here is that your weapons can degrade over time or run out of ammo, causing you to discard them. The degrading happens from timefall, which is basically any time that you see rain, that's timefall, where if the water touches your skin or containers, they will age by becoming a wrinkly old person, or your containers will rust in a matter of minutes while being in the rain. The gameplay doesn't change as much when you enter a boss fight, except the one with Higgs. This one in particular is an amazing standout, a reminder of some of the wackiness that Hideo Kojima can come up with. You run around as he shoots at you, hiding behind dead whales and other things in the environment, picking up packages to then spring up and then throw in his direction. You have to do this so physically, even with your fingers on the controller. So you basically go and hit him in the face with one of these packages, disorienting him for a moment, allowing you to sprint over and punch him as fast and as hard as possible, before he teleports away and repeats this process. This portion is fairly simple, and he does it a handful of times, but by the end of it, you move on to the next phase of the fight, and you're in a slugfest in the middle of black goo. You're blocking his jabs and hooks while attempting to land your own. The camera will pan from behind you to then behind Higgs during this fight, showing the intensity, change, and the pain on each man's face. This particular fight is the standout of the entire game, and I wish more of them were like this, or that we had at least more opportunities to have a change up in gameplay and some just standout moments. But let's get beyond that and get more into the systems and progression. The game will consistently give you new and exciting items, also upgrades to your previous ones, sometimes with a new wrinkle to them. The menus remind me a ton of Metal Gear Solid 5, with their little clicky noises and sort of clean but somewhat cluttered mess that they are. Once you know what you're looking at, it's kind of easy to parse through the details, ignore the things that you don't need, and pay attention to the things that matter. Although the first times that you do try to navigate the menus, they feel very messy. When you get to a distribution center, you can take on new orders, turn in the ones that you currently have, deliver lost cargo that you found on the way to your current objective, or recycle old cargo for different materials. You can construct new items to use with the materials that you extracted from this, and as discussed before, timefall causes anything and everything to decay. So you'll be using the system quite a bit to replace and make new items on a regular basis. Whether it be your boots getting worn out from walking all day, or your gun sitting on your tool rack as the rain pitter-patters on it, and all of your other containers. During my time playing the game, I never really ran out of resources or materials, honestly never even got close. I had enough materials for everything that I ever wanted to make, but because this was a possibility of running out, I was pretty conscious of my decisions when fabricating new items. I would use them until they were fully depleted, making me pay attention to what I was using, where I was using, and how I was using it, not just throwing everything away as soon as I was done with it or felt that I could craft a new one. This allowed me to get through the game without needing to run around and gather items to turn in or recycle for the purpose of obtaining more resources, just to continue the game. So the whole managing of this was not a big deal for me, since I was sorta already doing so while playing the game normally. Majority of the progression is tied to story related items that you obtain as you continue the main path. You can also do some side quests that give you new craftable items, but when you're completing any quest in the game, you're graded on your performance, your speed, distance, time, carry weight, etc. All of these are categorized and you're basically given a review. It's almost like giving your review to your DoorDash driver or your Uber Eats person. These add up with likes and such, and as your score continues to grow, you gain new passive perks for doing well and you grow your porter level. These new perks and upgrades include the number of structures that you can build, your balance when you're carrying items, the number of likes that you can get, your total carrying capacity, and max stamina. While also playing the game, you learn to become a better porter. It's a weird yet satisfying feedback loop. You deliver items, you get graded, you minimally increase your ability to deliver more items, but also learn about the world, unlock new items, and become a better porter along the way. All of these systems work well together, and over the course of the game, I didn't realize, and I think they do this on purpose, but near the end of the game, you're sort of stripped of all the gadgets and gizmos to make a delivery, with just your boots and your own back. No exosuit, no vehicle, nothing. Yet I was scaling a mountainside and running across a vast area, and with ease. I was going at almost the same speed that I would otherwise with those tools, because Sam naturally became better at being a porter over the course of the game. He wasn't stumbling over every rock, he didn't need to stop and catch his breath every few minutes. It felt satisfying. I felt like I had grown as a player, but that Sam had grew along with me. When not completing missions and on your feet all day, you can rest at a safe house and take a shower, use the bathroom, peek at a BB, inspect your items and trinkets, customize things on occasion, and maybe wake up from a terrible nightmare. And these do happen on the regular, but these safe houses have a lot of story aspects to them, along with a little bit of gameplay. When you shower and use the bathroom, you're obtaining grenades that that are used to fight BTs. It's a little weird, but basically your body fluids are being used as weapons. By sleeping, you're replenishing your stamina and the stress of your BB. It all has a purpose behind it and plays out mostly like a hub area between missions. And I want to briefly hit the quest structure here because you have your main quests that give you new items and progress the plot. Then you have sort of important side quests that will increase your connection with facilities. Then below that you have everyday deliveries of just bringing items to people who need or want them. The final one is just grabbing lost cargo on your journey and turning it in at your current location or handing it off to someone else to take care of. The lost cargo is pretty organic as you can just snag these items randomly in the world, but the rest are all selected quests at the terminal and the cities or bunkers. Some are quick and painless while others are arduous and annoying. One of the worst times I had was with the bombs, man. These quests were so fucking annoying. But honestly, I think that was the purpose. To make you be careful and considerate. Watch your footing and how you move throughout the world without being too reckless and taking the most insane route that you can. You gotta choose the best route for the smoothest ride, because any bump or tumble could spell the end with a massive explosion. The bombs are very sensitive and they will go off if you make any sort of crazy maneuvers. Outside of these bomb missions though, I didn't find many that were difficult or annoying for the most part. Of course, the ones that are related to BTs and sneaking around them at a very slow pace, they had me on my toes and had me going very slow to avoid detection, but they weren't necessarily difficult. There are 3 total zones or maps that you can obtain and complete quests in, the East, Central, and West zones. Central being the largest, and East and West being mostly the start and end of the story. These environments and zones are always scattered with rocks and obstacles along your path. Sometimes valleys with rivers, other times with mountains and snow. Each need to be managed in their own way, but they're diverse in the way that you need to tackle them. There are broken down buildings that require you to maneuver through unpassable objects. Open fields are mostly fine, but then there's a massive river cutting through the middle of it, impeding your objective. And if you try to cross that river with its flowing streams, then it'll sweep you off of your feet and you will lose all of your cargo along the way. Mountains can get extremely steep and you can't always tell what lies ahead. Along with dealing with the timefall, as snow on these can be a pain. There are very small moments where you need to don a mask for poison in the air, but these are very short and I almost forgot about them. Going to and working my way through a new zone where a new city, or not as they're called here, showed that the developers put a lot of care into the world building of the game. Fields have long grass and minimal rocks, yet a desert zone has sweeping hills and broken down cars. Diversity in environments is not an issue here. I found the game to be gorgeous overall when playing it on a base PS5, consistently being impressed with the realistic looks of everything, the facial animations, the sheen of the metal on the vehicles, and even the rust forming on everything that isn't organic. They're all extremely detailed. Death Stranding has an extremely large amount of cutscenes as well, probably rivaling Metal Gear Solid 4, because it seems as much as you walk around delivering packages, you're also watching a cutscene that's probably similar in length. But it's a good thing this game is so pretty along the way. With the mention of faces though and how absolutely real they look, let's talk about sound. First off, there are a ton of famous people in this game. Movie actors, the likeness of directors, and other random famous people. Although their voices are not plastered onto their characters, the voices that are taking over do an incredible job at selling the realism in the world. We all know that Norman Reedus is the main character, and other people from this game have gone on record saying that they loved everything when making this game. Although they were a bit lost in the sauce on the story, they did the best that they could with the direction that they were given. And man, was that direction executed to perfection, because they sell the fuck out of this world. Talking about a lot of these nonsensical people and ideas, ropes, bridges, BTs, whatever the hell, they sell you on every word that is spoken. The standouts to me in this game, and I'm going to use their names in the game to make it easier for everybody, it's going to be Sam, Cliff, Deadman, Fragile, and Higgs. I feel like these characters have also the most dialogue in the game, or a large portion with importance to the story, but the other audio in the game and the other characters in the world itself are done very well. The items within and the menus. BTs are hauntingly loud and scary. Your BB cries out and is stressful as hell. Weapons sound like, I guess weapons? I don't know, man. The rain falling on everything is soothing in some cases. Your suit makes noises when it goes to put up the hood, or your exosuit powers up for you to be able to sprint. Vehicles sound chunky and mechanical. Man, this audio is fucking nice in this game. That's the majority of my thoughts on it. It's one of those games where I would highly suggest headphones. There's also a large selection of licensed music that Kojima specifically picked out. He's pretty fucking good at picking out songs, and he uses different record labels and has bands create songs just for the game. They come up randomly when traveling the world during specific missions, but also whenever you have an object in the world, players can tie a song to it. So when you walk past that object, it'll play that song. A negative portion of this, though, that slightly annoyed me is you can only listen to the music in the safe house, really. They'll randomly play during these missions, but it's only a single time. Outside of that, you have to be in the safe house and otherwise cannot listen to the tracks played in the game. Maybe there was a reason for this, I truly don't know, but it's a little annoying considering you had a way to listen to music in almost every Metal Gear game, and it seemed like they wanted you to listen to music and that it mattered a lot here, but they only allow it when they want to allow it. It's a weird choice. As spoken about before though, the UI is somewhat convoluted and confusing. I think he does this on purpose sometimes, which is really dumb to say, but it's genuinely one of the worst parts of the game. Navigating via a weapon wheel and selecting something isn't the worst here, but I've seen it done better in other games. The gauges on display are mostly fine and get the job done, being clean and straightforward, but in that pause menu and the maps, there are some weird spots. As detailed as the map is, where it tracks everything, you use this in conjunction with your left bumper or L1 on my PlayStation, where you walk around in the world, and when you hit this button, you go into first person. It allows you to see objective and cardinal directions, but in the map, you get sort of bombarded with so much information and buttons to press that it's honestly annoying. The detail here is great because you do need a lot of information presented. I just wish it had more effort put into it to clean it up a little and not have so much on a given screen. The orders and the cargo screen are a bit more clean and clear to navigate, but again, they aren't horrible in the first place. I just feel like the UI and the menus could use a little bit of work. The last thing that we're going to get to here before the conclusion is the patches and the DLC, along with a little bit of the difficulty. I'll be quick with this though. The DLC was included in my director's cut edition of the game. It adds a few missions and quality of life like a firing range, some extra tutorials, and some updated graphics for being on PC and PS5. Smaller upgrades include maybe new weapons, melee combos, and items to use when traveling the world. After beating the game, I looked into these a little more and I honestly realized that I didn't use any of them throughout my time playing the game. They probably do add quite a bit for some players who want to experience and engage with more systems, but for me, they didn't do much. But on to difficulty, I can genuinely say that I died less than 10 times while playing this game. And the few times that I did die was me trying to brute force past something that I shouldn't have. Mostly those bomb missions. I spoke about them before, but each time that I got a bomb mission, I would die at least once or twice because I tried to drive it through a mountainous region and then halfway through I would blow up due to hitting some bumps along the way. Don't be in a rush and don't be an idiot like me. Take your time, as it tells you when you get these bombs. They're sensitive, or they will quite literally blow your ass up. Every boss fight as well and every enemy encountered was easily dispatched and overcome without a second thought. I never died to any bosses in the game, and I'd say to even crank up the difficulty if you want something just a little bit more challenging. Otherwise, you'll breeze through most of the game, and if that's more your style, then go for that instead. That's going to lead us into the ending here with my biggest positives and negatives. As I said throughout this review, I really enjoy a lot of aspects of this game. I think some things had a little bit of jank that could have been tuned up just a little better, like the movement felt a little bit stiff on occasion along with the vehicles. The menus were sometimes annoying to deal deal with. I also wish the bosses were more complicated and fun, and the game was a bit on the easy side. These are all minor and very tiny gripes that I had at the end of the day. It's a very confusing yet very engaging story that you will lose yourself in. I spent roughly 50 hours playing through this game, enjoying pretty much every moment and character along the way. Getting to know the people in the world around me, carrying some pizza or other nonsense along the way. You wouldn't go wrong buying this at full price, which I doubt is even possible being 6 years after the release, but it's worth every dollar in my book. Although a very nonsensical game through and through with all the themes in the auteur way of speaking, and as much as I feel Kojima as a developer is a little pretentious. We'll leave it at that. The game is good, new ideas that we've never seen before, insane concepts, and executed on a level of production that makes it feel good to play. And at the end of it, I highly suggest this game. I already have the sequel pre-ordered, which comes out in just a little over a week. I'll be playing through that and making a review soon after it also. With all of that though, I hope you all enjoy this long-ass review that took a very long time to write and finish. But if you made it to the end here, please do all that dumb YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you next time.
4, 3, 2, 1.